Afternoon. I was a little nervous this morning when Lisa mentioned that you tried to get the Pope here, and instead of the Pope, you asked me. Now, I can't tell you how much theological problems that's going to cause me, and then I introduced then the bishop of an Episcopal church, so it's going to be all over, but this is one of my favorite conferences to be at. And I wish you didn't do it just every 3 years. You know, I go to pastors' conferences, and then I go to real people and animals, and there's no theological arguments, and that's what I love about this. I guess this is my little clicker. Anyway, President CEO of Lutheran Church Charities, which simply means I'm the guy in the parade behind the horses, if you know what I mean. Anyway, we try to make a difference at the end of the day. Our mission is to show the mercy, compassion, presence, and proclamation of Jesus Christ to those who are suffering and in need. We do primarily crisis and disaster response work, which there has not been a shortage of. And we put boots on the ground and paws on the ground. Wherever we're invited in, we never charge those we serve. We just come in by invitation to be with people. Whether it's shootings, flooding, tornadoes. I was just a week ago down in Florida, the Panhandle, with that whole area. Before that, Tennessee. So we go all over the country. The Canine Comfort Dog Ministry shows that God has a sense of humor. He works in spite of us. And it actually started with Katrina. The ministry didn't, but we were doing work down in Katrina. And we were asked to do search and rescue of people with pets. Well, we had never done that, but FEMA asked us to, so we got boats and we went out and rescued people and pets and saw that people were willing to risk their life rather than depart with their pet. So we saw something with that, and it just so happened that we had a couple of our volunteers had golden retrievers. And so at the next disaster, I said, bring them out. When people come in and they need help in that, we'll have the Goldens there, and they'd pet them. And I should have caught on at that time that God wanted us to do something. I didn't. I'm slow. I'm German. You know why they bury Germans with their head above the ground? Lasts longer than a tombstone. I could tell you who's German. Anyway, it wasn't until February of 2018 there was a shooting at Northern Illinois University. And one of our pastors was in lockdown. And he called me and goes, Hetzner, you doing those dogs? Now, at that point, we didn't have any dogs, but I could get some. And so we brought dogs out at NIU, and we saw the impact it had with the students. Now, you would think I would have gotten it at that point. It wasn't until May of that year when the students invited us back, petitioned the administration to bring in dogs. And so we gathered up golden retrievers and brought them out, and that's when God hit me on the head and said, don't wait for a crisis or disaster. People go through crises and disasters personally all the time. So in August of 2008, we started with 4 dogs, 2 we kept internally, and 2 we placed into different churches. And that's what we do. We place dogs in churches, schools, and universities. And it branched out into, I got to go back here, we branched out then, we saw that with military, many military people would not open up unless it was another military or veteran person. So we started a branch of our ministry with the same comfort dogs, different vest, for military. Then after doing a number of shootings, we saw the same thing with police officers. So we started a police ministry, same dog, different vest, and police officers will not open up unless it's another police officer. Then we are in the legal system now. So it continues to grow with it in spite of us. We are now in 24 states, soon to be 30 states. We train all of our own dogs. We start at 8 weeks. We use all golden retrievers. I like blondes. All golden retrievers because they're good inside and outside. And we just keep placing dogs. So this is the map of where we have dogs. And in Oklahoma, got 1. We're going to have 2 more, right, Rich? 2 more coming up here. So we'll be serving this state as well as others. Now, this will give you some idea. This was of what we do. This was after the Boston bombing. We were invited in, and we were located 2 blocks away from where the disaster took place. People many times, all ages, will talk to a dog before they'll talk to a person. After a couple seconds of petting the dog, people start sharing why they're there or what they're thinking or some of their fears. But you know, through all of that, it brings a smile to their face, some hope into their day. And if they want, we will pray with them, if they would like that. Dogs are part of God's creation, a very gifted part of His creation with their sixth sense of empathy, to sense someone who is hurting. I can't tell you how many times our dogs, and they're trained not to be aggressive with people, but will nudge the handler to go see someone, and we'll invite them over, and it's somebody that is struggling. Dogs sense that in people. All of our dogs have a business card, and on their business card is a picture of the dog, and it has a Bible verse. Here's Ruthie's, Ephesians 4:2. They all have Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, and email, which isn't just being cute. It's a way to continue to minister to and to connect with people, and many times people will share things that they're going through or will ask for prayers through the Facebook page. You know, I have not found in the Gospels yet where Jesus ever invited someone to synagogue or temple.
Happy birthday, Luther.
But I do see all over the place where Jesus calls us to go out. And it's not just go out, but He always says where to start. And you start with the lowliest, and those that are hurting, and those that are in the lowly places, and those that are suffering. And that's what we do as the hands and the feet of Christ.
They're pretty good. They get to fight.
So we've done disaster responses all across the country. I can't keep them straight. I jumped from a disaster, crisis. There was just another shooting last night at Utah, second fatal shooting in a year there. I wish we didn't have to do this. But 2011, some of the deployments we did, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, you know, we started with 4 dogs. Now we're over 130, and I can't train them fast enough because you don't just pull them off a shelf to place them. I got a waiting list of places. 2016, Orlando with the Pulse nightclub. And, you know, it was interesting there. I had pastors that said, "What are you doing there? Are you telling them the error of their ways?" And I said, "No, we're there to be Jesus." "Well, how can a dog do ministry?" I said, "How can you do ministry if you're just sitting in your office texting things?" Anyway, I haven't been kicked out yet, and I'm too old for them to do it. 2018 is where we're at now. But this will give you some idea of what a deployment is. As I mentioned to you, we put boots and paws on the ground within 24 hours, if humanly possible. This was a Vegas shooting. We were invited in there, and this is from the time that we got the invite.
The first thought I thought, honestly, was when is it ever going to stop? But my second thought was, we're going to be there with the dogs. Whenever you hear of something like this happening, all of the handlers will tell you the same thing.
This can't be happening. Go, 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 go!
You know that we can comfort people.
There's 17 of the dogs going to Las Vegas today.
That the dogs make a difference, so you want to be there.
First Church Comfort Dog Ministry, who are on board our flight today, they're coming to Vegas, of course, to help out at this time of crisis.
We've been to Sandy Hook after the school shootings there. We went to Boston after the Boston Marathon bombings. We went to Pulse in Orlando after the shootings there. And now we're in Las Vegas after the horrible shooting here.
Right here,
You see that stage?
to the right.
This is where it all went down. Yeah, so that's your shooter's window then. That's where he shot from. If I'm above you like that, there's nothing in my way.
This is all very real to me about right now.
That's crime scene tape.
We're just here to let you pet our dog and share in your grief. It's as simple as that.
It started out as just a fun night. Like, we met all these random people. We were dancing with them and, sharing a couple cocktails and just enjoying the music. We started hearing a noise, and it was confusion. Me and my girlfriend, we just dropped to the ground, and we were just holding each other, and the bullets were still just coming down. I mean, you could feel them ricochet, you could hear them. And eventually we got out. I called my mom, and first thing she said was, Jamie, it's the largest mass shooting in American history. I couldn't feel anything for a long time. Why did the person next to me not make it out? Like, why was I chosen? And you feel a huge sense of guilt. And I didn't really want to show that to anybody. I didn't want to scare anybody. So when I was at work and I saw the comfort dogs come in, and I immediately just started crying. I didn't know why. I didn't know if I was happy or just emotional.
That's a good
I
thing.
love her. Hi.
But that's what she's trained for.
What a sweetie.
Is-
Oh, you're so cute. You make people feel better?
Yes, she does.
Yeah? Oh, she's so cute.
She didn't talk about the event at all. So I can't even imagine the pain that she was going through after being shot in the stomach.
We've been in hospitals where people have been on monitors and you can actually see
Them relax.
the blood pressure,
That's crazy.
heart rate go down. Well, you have an amazing attitude.
Thanks.
And just
have
calmness
to.
in your face and just...
You have to. Can only get better from here.
I've been a cop for 37 years. I've got 1 year left and I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna go do other stuff. What I'm not leaving is the comfort dogs. In a few months, in a little bit of time, there's gonna be responders who are gonna take their lives.
Probably.
Because they can't do it. They can't take it. And survivor's guilt is such a real thing. I have seen it.
Sure.
I've seen it in cops. I've seen it in soldiers.
Do we have any other wounded people you take?
Route 91, satellite and automatic firearm. 16910 means we got shots fired. 415 ASF.
Copy, code red at 169 Tammy, do you have shots?
17910 means it's coming from upstairs.
Yes, you're right. Because you're meant
Employees at the call centers really suffer from the highest degree of post-traumatic stress.
Hello. Would you like to see a doggy? Hi. This is Cubby.
What's the address? It was craziness. I never expected this job to be this way. I don't know if it was more torture to be here and have to listen to and cry, or to get the possible last kiss from my husband as he's running out the door.
Oh my gosh. Oh, bless your heart. Can I hug you with your thing on?
Thank you. We really appreciate you guys coming. More than you know.
Dear Heavenly Father, give them peace in their hearts, and thank you for placing them here when the city needed them so desperately. Amen. 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 There are some things that need to be talked about, and I understand all that, but we just get to respond with love.
Christiana Dwar, Victor Link,
Dana Gardner, Stacy Etcheber, Angela Gomez, Cameron Robinson, Jack Beaton, Melissa Ramirez, Heather Alvarado, Hannah Ars, Kurt Von Tillo, Thomas Day Jr., Adrian Murphy, Bailey Schweitzer, Jessica Klimhuk, Quentin Robbins, Rachel Parker, Sandy Casey, Chris Roybal, Michael.
Bringing your own feelings, you really have to guard yourself against doing that.
These people are going to be going around and they don't have the wounds and scars that everyone can see. They're carrying internal ones. It's going to be a hard time when they go to 4th of July and they start hearing fireworks. Any noises will set them off. It's going to be a long road for them. They have joined a new club that they didn't know that they were joining. The club of being a victim.
Even though these events keep happening, and I don't know that they're going to stop happening, it's terrible that all this hate, and then I come here, and what do we see? The very worst of what humanity can do, and then to be able to have the gift to see the very best of humanity is a huge gift. And to be a part of that, even just a little bit, I need to remember this and take that home the next time that, you know, I watch the news or hear what's happening or the hate. I need to remember what happened here and how people responded to hate.
Dogs do speak, but only to those who know how to listen. That's what I like about Kirkpatrick. Animals are part of God's creation. They can teach us a lot if we're willing to learn. And that's why we have to protect animals and learn from them and help change this crazy world we're living in. Could you come up? Wake up, dogs. This is our working position. These are all volunteers that come around with us. So I pray we learn from them. Thank you and God bless. And now for the bishop.
Here to introduce our final speaker, please welcome Susan Charleston.
Hi. This has been such a wonderful conference, and I've learned so many new things. I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm sort of a quiet person, so I wrote out what I'm going to say to you all. Okay. When Louisa suggested I do the introduction for my husband, I was happy to do it. Because he and I have been an unusual pair of partners on an equally unusual journey. I am an artist, a painter, born and raised in New York City. He is a writer, a visionary from the Native American community of Oklahoma. He is a citizen of the Choctaw Nation. Over the last 40 years, we have lived and worked with and for Indigenous people as far afield as the Maori of Aotearoa, New Zealand, the Navajo and Lakota of the United States, the Cree of Canada, and the Inuit of Alaska's Arctic coast. During all these years, I have learned a great deal about the difference between my own Northern European culture and the culture of Indigenous people. In fact, I would like to illustrate one of those differences now in making this introduction. In my tradition, you might expect me to talk about my husband's accomplishments, his titles and degrees, the books he's authored, and the positions he has held. All of that information would validate why he is here as a speaker at the Animal Conference. And yet, in his tradition, things like titles and degrees and awards don't really mean that much. So let me introduce my husband in a more Native American way. One day, some years ago, I came into his bedroom to discover him sitting on the floor. His bed was missing. And instead, there was only a mattress on the floor. At the time, my husband was the president and dean of the Episcopal Divinity School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was the author of many well-respected works on theology. In fact, his reputation was such that his alma mater, Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, had named a building after him, the Charleston House of Interfaith Cooperation. Not the kind of person you would expect to find sleeping on the floor. And yet, it made perfect sense to him because, as he explained, being on the floor would make it easier for our dog, Dharma, a little Lhasa Apso, almost 20 years old, and who had horrible arthritis. It would make it easier for Dharma to get onto the bed to sleep beside him. They were soulmates. Dharma's needs were more important to him than his titles. My husband, Stephen, is considered to be a holy man among many Indigenous communities, not because he has achieved recognition, but because, as important as that recognition may be, it is not as important to him as the suffering of one very small, very arthritic dog. And that is why, from the Indigenous perspective, he is a good speaker for the Animal Conference. And so, with that introduction, let me invite him to come forward to share his thoughts. My unusual husband, Stephen Charleston.
Thank you, Susan. Hello, everybody. Well, it's the end of the conference. I'm the last speaker. I know because I've done a lot of conferences in my life. I know you're probably at this point tired. You've got a lot in your mind. I don't know about you, but I've been absorbing so much from so many different people, not just the speakers, but the people that you meet over lunch or while you're just sitting around. It's really been an amazing conference that way, just learning and learning and listening and listening. And well, anyway, so here I am, and I won't keep you very long. I used to say, because I was Bishop of Alaska, and a priest in the Episcopal Church, I gave a lot of sermons. And I used to tell people I'm a good news preacher because the good news is I'm not a long-winded preacher. So I won't keep you all that long. I want to talk to you about what's going on behind the scenes of this meeting. I want to talk to you about what I think is going on behind the scenes of the work that all of you are doing. To do that, I have to talk in a slightly different way. For some of you, it will be very, perhaps, familiar when I speak the way I'm about to, because you are already, like I am, living in a world that is full of mystery, full of the Spirit, full of vision, full of those strange and wonderful things that we can't explain really, but we just live into as human beings. For some of you, you're familiar with that. Others, this may seem a little different. And so if it is different for you or your spiritual tradition, I hope you'll just open your heart and let whatever I have to say be of some help to you. Let me begin by describing what I mean in this way. When I was a little boy, I was growing up in rural Oklahoma in a poor family, a native family, extended family, where I never knew when I came home who the family was going to be for that night. A cousin passing through town, down on his luck, my grandmother who'd come over to stay and eat for a while. You just never knew. And we were a family, if any of you are familiar with this, we were a family that lived a pretty subsistence kind of life. I remember eating squirrel and dumplings was on our diet. Probably not for many of you, but it was something we were used to. And so my great-grandfather, who was the only one that could take care of me, because my mother was working as a hairdresser and my dad was a roughneck on the oil field. They were gone a lot. So my great-grandfather, who was still alive, he took care of me. And he taught me to go out and to hunt. He would go out and hunt squirrels, and he wanted, when I became old enough to carry a little gun, to go with him. We went down, listen. We went down to the persimmon patch where there was a sort of a little glade. And we were down there and we were hunting. I didn't really think I would shoot anything. I was just excited to be with him. And I saw a movement in the bushes. And it was a small kind of a quivering movement. And like a kid, without thinking, I lifted the gun, anxious to do something, and bang! Shot the gun. Went over and looked behind the bushes. And I'd killed a rabbit. And I remember this moment so clearly because as I looked at the rabbit lying there, I realized that I had taken its life. And I, without thinking about it, dropped the gun and fell on my knees and began just touching the rabbit as though I might bring it back to life. And when I did, listen, and when I did, there was not a sound in the persimmon patch, not a sound of a bird or a cicada or any sounds at all. not even of my own breathing. But I did hear a voice. It's a voice some of you have heard. It's a voice that comes from within you, and here I can only say it, and yet it doesn't come from within you. It comes from somewhere else. It's a voice of the spirits. It's a voice of our ancestors. You could call it the voice of God. But it was a sound within my heart that said, you didn't ask my permission. And I looked at that little creature and I thought, it's as though the spirit of this little rabbit was speaking to me. You didn't ask. And I understood at that moment as a native child that I had thoughtlessly taken the life of this creature, that I had failed to understand my relationship with the life that I had just destroyed, that I was not paying attention, I was not listening, I was not aware of what the Spirit was trying to say to me. I was being a sleepwalker in life and not attentive to the power of the Spirit in all living things. And so I knelt down and I dug a hole. And my great-grandfather, bless him, he knelt next to me. We buried the rabbit, and I prayed over the rabbit in my own way. Young, little boy, whatever words I used, I don't remember. But I will never forget that moment, and I won't forget the sound of that voice because it came to me again years and years and years later. It was there where Susan said I was the president and dean of a school at Harvard University. There was an apartment building. It was about 5 stories high, I think, and students lived there, and I was living in that apartment building in 1973 as a native student who wanted to go on through seminary so I could become ordained and become a Christian pastor. And in 1973, a man who was a friend of mine later in life, Vine Deloria Jr., published a book called God is Red. It's probably a little off the beaten track for some of you for your reading, but God is Red, if you were a Native American, was a bombshell in 1973 because basically it said Christianity is the white man's religion. You don't want anything to do with Christianity. You want to get back to the traditional ways, and if you're a real Indian, you'll follow Native tradition. Well, what was I going to do? I'm an Indian kid in seminary wanting to be a Christian minister, and now here's this book telling me that if I do that, I'm selling out. I'm like an apple. I'll be red on the outside but white on the inside. Don't do that. Don't go there. Come back to the traditional ways. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to follow the only tradition I knew, and every morning before anyone else was awake at dawn, I would get up and go to the roof of that building and draw a circle of cornmeal on top of the roof. It was a flat roof with a little kind of a area that ran around it about that high, and I would stand up there morning after morning after morning, rain or shine, snow or sleet. I'd stand there, make my circle of cornmeal, acknowledge the 4 sacred directions, and ask the Spirit to come and help me and show me what to do. Do I leave school? Should I stop being Christian? Should I go back to the reservation? Tell me what to do. I was crying out and crying out. In Lakota, they say, humblechea, crying for the vision. And so on this vision quest of mine, on a roof in an apartment at Harvard University, I'm asking in a traditional Native way for the Holy Spirit to come and talk to me. One morning, I looked, and just there on the wall, this small little wall around the rooftop, there was the largest black crow I've ever seen. And it did not move. It sat there staring at me, and I was staring at it. And in that moment, there was not a sound in the whole city. I could not hear a fire alarm, police car. I couldn't hear anyone banging doors or crying out or honking horns. It was absolutely silent. And in that same way with the rabbit, the crow, as it looked at me, began in my mind to say very quietly and very simply, and this is the difference between me and other people. Whenever God speaks to me, it is in language that any spiritual underachiever could understand. I did not get a technicolor vision of like, oh, Stephen, go thou now into Nineveh, or any of that stuff. I didn't see 5 dancing ponies and guys in headdresses. No, it was a bird, a single bird. I merited one bird. I'm a one-bird kind of prophet. And in that moment, that bird was speaking to me. Do you believe this? Some of you do. That bird was speaking to me, and it said, be at peace in your heart. What seems like 2 paths will become one. Be patient and persevere. So I persevered. I graduated from school, but I didn't get ordained. I walked a middle ground. I went to South Dakota and started working in the reservations and listening to the elders and learning the traditional ways and participating with the pipe and the sweat lodge and the sun dance and all the other aspects of my traditional life. I threw myself into it. I became a student of my own history, of my own tradition and culture. Now, why am I telling you all this? If you're not a native person, if you're a native person, you might say, oh, okay, then you are what the Lakota people ultimately came to call me with Joshua Khan, holy man. You're one of those crazy people who's interested in the spirits. You want to go up on the mountaintop and go on the vision quest and sit up all night in the woods and wait to hear the voice of the Spirit speaking to you. You're that kind of person. I must tell you, if you don't understand what I'm trying to describe by that, it is at that moment of acceptance that there is something in our lives that's bigger than who we are. Why am I sharing this with native and non-native people? Because what I believe ultimately has been going on at this conference is that spirit has been active among all of us. The spirits of these animals have been active among all of us. In a shorthand, what I'm saying to you is that whatever your story is that brought you to come to this conference or to do the good work that you are doing, it is not by accident. You each have a story to tell. I've heard some of them. You've heard others. When you look at somebody who's come to this conference and say, well, how did you get into wanting to save the animals? How did you first get involved in this? What is it that brought you or led you to do this? And we can recount a whole series of strange events that happened, or people we met, or mentors who showed us the way, or disasters that took our breath away, and we decided to get involved. But behind that, spiritually speaking, what I'm suggesting to you, if you'll allow me just for a few minutes to baptize all of you as native people, so you're now officially native people for the next 10 minutes. But if you just believe this, I'll tell you what it's all about, is that there is no accidental involvement in your life into something as spiritual as working with animals. You were not brought to this just because it happened to be a hobby or something you thought might be interesting to do. You are here for a purpose and for a reason. You were brought here, nurtured and carried along and encouraged to be here, to do the kind of work you do. Are you doing the work you do because it's the big bucks? Are you doing this because you're going to retire on it? Are you doing it because it's so popular that you don't have hard days where you just don't have enough money to get everything done you'd like to do? How many of you spend so much time trying to figure out how you can keep this funded? How can you get more people involved? How can you explain this so other people will understand it? Where are you going to get the extra help you need? Look at the struggles that you're involved in. Look at the difficulties that you face and the obstacles that you you not only survive but surmount over and over and over again. Where does that come from? It comes from the Spirit that is within you and the Spirit that is all around you. Are they different? I don't think so. There is within each of us a heart for the holy. I don't care whether you're a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Buddhist, or a Hindu. I don't care if you're an agnostic or an unbeliever. There is a spirit that is within you at the core of who you are that resonates with something bigger than yourself. Because when you are with those animals, do you not feel in the presence of some relationship that is so profound and so nourishing and so important to you that it's bigger than anything else? Or am I making this up? I believe in you. I am a crazy Indian. I believe in you because I believe that spirit is within you. I believe it has made you face the struggles that you faced. I think it's brought you to meet the people that work with you. I believe it's helped you through sleepless nights wondering if you're doing the right thing. And here's the kicker at the end of this, and I'll tell you, I believe you've been brought here, nurtured here, nourished here, strengthened here, and that Spirit is working with you for even a bigger reason. It's not all about me, and it's not all about you. It's about something bigger than all of us. Do you feel in your heart that something's wrong in the world today? Is there anyone in this room that I could honestly look at in the eye and you'd say to me, "Oh no, Steve, I think everything's just great. We're just getting along fine. Not a problem in the world, in this country or in the world around us. We're just doing splendidly." No, most of us feel there's something that is strangely wrong in the world around us. More conflicts, more natural disasters, more hurricanes, more hurts, more loss. Look how much need we've seen on these screens behind me. Look at the stories we've heard at this meeting alone of people who are hungry and lonely and needing some kind of support, who need us to keep doing what we're doing. The world seems as though it is so hard these days. We don't know what to expect will happen next. It gets to the point where some of us who used to be CNN junkies watching the news all the time don't want to turn the news on because you know it's going to be bad. Are some of you afraid to watch the news because it'll make you more depressed? I think so. So what are we doing here taking care of the dogs and cats? We're about the business of healing the world. I can tell you, if you'll allow me just this moment to do so, as a native, I don't know what I am, a native guy. I'm telling you, what you're doing is so important. Because we look at the world around us and we say, people don't get along, people don't listen to each other, people don't care about each other. In some families, do not mention politics. Do not raise that subject at the family table. Because Uncle Harold is going to get so bent out of shape, we'll sit here all night listening to him rant and rave. Whether he is a Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, or a conservative, that struggle that we feel in the world around us, what you are doing to heal the world through all the good things that you were doing is more than just taking care of the little animals, more than taking care of endangered species. It's more than even some of the things we heard about taking care of the whole planet through a new way to feed ourselves. It is allowing the opportunity for that voice that I heard with that rabbit, that voice that I heard with the crow that has followed me all of my life, that voice that I have bet my life on, that I have lived my life in obedience to, that I have followed into some of the strangest and most wonderful and mysterious places you can imagine. That is what is continuing to motivate and lead me, and it is the same for you, whether we realize it or not. We are in kinship, brothers, sisters, all of us. We are in kinship with each other and with the animal life that is around us. We are part of something that is so holy and so sacred, it is extremely difficult to even explain it because we live into it and not completely with our own understanding, where we can only walk by a faith without seeing clearly what is around the next corner, but trusting that something sacred and something holy will be there. And whatever it takes, we'll keep walking this path because we want to bring this same kind of healing and hope into the lives of our children and our grandchildren, into the lives of generations yet to come. Listen, and behind us, a great witness of our ancestors are watching us and willing us to keep going. Do you believe in your ancestors? Oh, come on, you can be an Indian for 5 minutes. Yeah, you do. Sure you do. Is someone in your family that you loved who's passed on watching you now as I'm speaking to you? Yes or no? Yes. Are they proud of what you're trying to do? Yes. Are they there to help you when you need them? Yes. Are they sending you blessings and strength that you cannot hold or feel or even explain to other people, but that you feel within yourself that you know it's there and you're grateful for it? Because when you're in need, when you're really in need for someone to help you keep going with this work, your ancestors, that voice, that presence is there. Just as this unknown presence of this mysterious spirit that spoke to me through rabbits and through birds and through all kinds of places in nature is a part of your life. Brothers and sisters all, I am really very honored to have had a chance to be sitting in this room listening to all the things that you all are doing. And I hope that in this little closing remark of mine, I may have said something that will have touched your heart, something that will have touched your spirit, and get you for a moment to accept the fact that you have been brought to this work for a purpose, and that that purpose is a sacred purpose, and that it is a holy thing that you are doing, that you are Wachashwakan. You are sacred, for you walk a holy path. And that path is to heal the Mother Earth and to make sure that all of her children, those that fly and swim and walk, those that creep by night, all of her children are part of one family that is a sacred family, that is within the hoop of the nation. And that hoop remains unbroken. And that through our faith and through our goodness, we can impact the Mother Earth and heal her of that which has harmed her and open up the next generation to a relationship with life that we cannot even now believe ourselves is possible. Did you think you were that important before I told you? I hope that this has been of help to you. I will say it to you plainly. You are a holy person. You are sacred in all that you're doing now. You are needed. You are appreciated. You are valued. Listen, you are loved, deeply loved for what you do to preserve life on the great mother from which we all arise and to which we all return. Whatever death songs we may sing, whatever chants we may believe in, we all arise and will all return to the same mother. And in making that journey, you are making it because it is the will of the one who has created you and made you, as surely as created me. And it is a response to the reality of the fact that what I have heard and what you have heard in your life, what we have seen together, is not imaginary. It's not just the politically correct thing to do. It is the acceptance of a faith in life, a belief in life that we treasure more than anything else, that is more important to us than anything else, and that will ultimately be the greatest blessing that we could possibly leave after we walk the Rainbow Bridge into the arms of the ancestors who are waiting for each one of us. Something sacred this way comes. Something holy is here. believe, and do not be doubting. Be blessed, each one of you. Be blessed. I don't know what blessing you need, but there are two people in this room who do. You and the Creator. Be blessed into what you need, and know that you are loved through the power of God who comes from all four sacred directions to find us just where we are. Thank you for having the patience to listen to me. Amen. God bless.
Well, I love you, Stephen. Stephen's been my priest for the last 8 years. How lucky am I? I had a surgery, kind of one of those life-changing surgeries in December of 2016. He came to the OU Medical Surgery Center right before my surgery, put his hands on my head like bishops do and prayed over me. So thank you for being here. What a lucky state we are for him to reside in Oklahoma City with Susan. So I'm going to stand in the middle here, so all of our front people, maybe turn your chairs here. I'm just going to go stand in the middle of the four directions. I'll stand by my friend Rondi here, our Kirkpatrick Prize winner, Cynthia Armstrong, congratulations. Christy Wicker, the principal investigator on our Oklahoma Animal Study, extraordinary. So I'm kind of beat. I thought I was going to have all these like words of wisdom to share with you, but I don't actually. But I do want to sort of restate that I am an animal advocate, and you are an animal advocate. And my two boys are here, my two younger boys. I have 3 sons, and I was thinking recently that a lot of us come by animal protection through our families. My grandmother was a writer. She had a column in the Daily Oklahoman for 36 years called Hound Hill. She was sort of the Irma Bombeck of animals in Oklahoma. She was the National Dog Writer of the Year twice in the 1950s, which was given at the Waldorf Astoria before the Westminster Dog Show. So she was sort of the matriarchal animal advocate back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Then my mother up in Enid was kind of the midwife for anyone having a litter of puppies or kittens. And then she extended that to me, and I extend that to them. So I think there's something about us in this room, those of us who have children, that those of us who take care of children, your boys, another one of our Kirkpatrick Prize winners right here, Brent. So I think that's a really important thing that we can do is to, Natalie works with her children, her equine rescue. So we are animal advocates, and we have Matt Bigger. Is Dr. Bigger in the room? There he is right there. So he's our collaborator. He lives in San Francisco with his children and his wife, and they've just adopted a new animal from the local SPCA there. So he's our leader in our strategic plan. We have a meeting, a 2-day meeting, the Monday and Tuesday after Thanksgiving, that will sort of set us on a course for cats and dogs, but I'm a big farm animal protection is sort of where my heart lies, so I'll be thinking about new and different ways in which we can work together here in Oklahoma for the farm animals. But what I really want to do right now, before we adjourn to 2021, 3 years from now, is share this microphone with anyone who's inspired to sort of have some reflections. I think we have 10 or 15 minutes, or however long we need to have, and I know some people are more shy than others, but Matt Goodwin's not. Can I call on you, my friend? But I want to just share the microphone for anyone who wants to impart some thoughts from the week, from the couple days.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What an incredible couple of days here, and hearing from people around our state and around the world that are experts in their field, and just humbled to be amongst this group that, even though each specific mission may be different and done in different ways, comes from the same heart and the same passion, and realizing that we're filling in different holes and different expectations and different things that need to be done. So it's just been incredible to see that. Eyes opened up today to just global problems with the food was fascinating. Learned so much. So I'm just grateful to be here for each and every person around the state that is making an incredible difference in so many fields.
I'm going to carry the microphone around. I see Heather Hens. Let me just tell you about Heather Hens. We need more animal lawyers. There are animal law programs at Harvard. There are animal law programs at Lewis and Clark. We have a new dean of the law school at Oklahoma City University, who I've been sort of, accosting with my view of a better, more bigger animal law curriculum here in Oklahoma. And Heather Hens right here is a lawyer. What firm are you with? Phillips Murrah. And she is probably one of 2 or 3 lawyers who takes on animal law cases, low bono or sometimes pro bono. So we need more people like you. Do you want to share anything today?
Just that I think Louisa is magical, and she's a beast, like my son would say of one of his friends, "What a beast!" So I guess she's a magical beast, but I don't know. She's an amazing person. I think it's unbelievable, the quality of the programming and everything. It's just almost overwhelming. I think there's a good reason it's every 3 years, because I think, just the intensity and the motivation you get can carry you 3 years. But I want to say thanks to you and to the Kirkpatrick Foundation for just putting it together. It's unbelievable. And so here's to reporting in 3 years on everything that we've done.
Very good. Anyone else? I'm sure that, yes.
Hi there. My name is Sierra Parks, and I actually work for one of the equine veterinarians at Remington Park. I'm from Iowa. I just happened to be driving downtown. I wasn't even going to be here this year, and saw the animal conference banners, and I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up, and I saw that the VetPod people were going to be here talking, so I was able to, I was telling them that they were probably the first people that I had followed on Instagram, so when I saw they were speaking, I was super excited, and I've always been an animal freak and kind of was geared toward more of a biology type degree, and after some serious self-reflection and really kind of being honest with myself about what I was super interested in as a young person, it was always the environment, it was always animals, and I'd even written a letter to National Geographic when I was like 7 asking them to like fly me around and talk about poaching. So I was always upset that I kind of felt like I didn't have this path that some people always had, where they were like, oh, I want to do this, and they knew since they were 7, and I'm always like, well, I have like 80 occupations that I feel like I want to do. But I really was that person, but it's taken me, I'm going to be 37, so it's taken me a long time to kind of realize it, but as other people keep saying, and I've met so many amazing people, I'm just here by myself, this random person with no organization or anything, but I've met so many people that said, all of these experiences and all of your weird jobs and kind of this collective education that you've got can only be an asset. And so it's just so inspiring to come to a place like this when you're from Iowa, you're surrounded by farmers. I stopped eating meat 3 years ago, so I work on the backside of a racetrack, so with all the cowboys and the Yahoo get her done type people. So it's always kind of hard to have my visions and have kind of my beliefs, and people are looking at me like, are you kind of crazy? And then to come here and see all these people and not feel like, you're by yourself in it. And so I just wanted to say that I'm just so impressed and so inspired and energized after having come here for the last couple of days, because it just shows you that there are so many other people that have that same vision and same opportunity, and all of these doors have seemed to just open, and it's been incredible. So thank you.
Sierra, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to make you an honorary Oklahoma animal advocate, okay? And I was wondering about those banners. We put 46 banners up around downtown Oklahoma City, and I was a little concerned that it might be in excess, but it wasn't. I'm glad you saw those.
Just on a lighter note, it's so awesome to come somewhere where I don't have to ask what's in all the food. Thank you for walking the talk and giving us a conference with all the extras that really make us know that we're in our vibe tribe, and I appreciate it.
You bet. And we had many moments where they were like, well, what if we had butter? And what if we had, and we were like, no, all in. We're going all in. Nicholas?
Well, it's been my great fortune over the last 30-some years to attend all of the national, regional, and state conferences in the United States. And I've otherwise be prepared to say that my favorite was the New England Federation conferences, and maybe the Illinois Fed was a good one. This is my first Kirkpatrick conference, and I have a new favorite conference. And I don't think you should wait until 2021. I think you should have it next year. Amanda, get on it. Congratulations.
Let's see. I'm going to head back to the front of the room. Okay. To the northeast part of the south. Let's see, which direction are we? Southeast part of the room. Give me a minute. Here we go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kat Weston. I want to say thank you, not only to you guys for throwing this, but for Tyann for inviting me at the last minute. I just moved back to Oklahoma, which I think half of you have heard that story. See, it's laughing. But it wasn't on my radar yet, and I'm really glad to be here. But I want to say thank you to all the people in the rural areas. I grew up on the city limits in Rush Springs, Oklahoma, between Rush Springs and Ninnekah, south of Chickasha, in what I always thought was the middle of nowhere. And I can't tell you how many times we'd have dogs and cats wander up that had been dumped. And we all probably have some experience with that. And that's the core of a lot of rescues in rural areas. So thank you to those of you that are in areas with no other resources for being those people. Because my family didn't know anyone, we didn't know much better, and a shotgun was often the only way that we could help those animals. Because they got dumped a lot further out, and they were in rough shape by the time they got to us. But I also want to thank all the mentors in the room, past and future. Kim Fairbanks is here, and she was probably my first mentor in animal welfare. I've gone on a lot of random rides with her and tracked down feral cats on the OU campus, secretively, just all sorts of crazy things. And she taught me a lot. I had mentors at OK Humane. I've learned a lot from Rondi, if not firsthand, but she helped me out a lot with giving, my student group at OU things to do and actionable ways to help. So if you see someone younger trying to help, take them under your wing, teach them everything you can, because it means a lot to us. It's hard to learn firsthand, and we don't like reinventing the wheel. It's not fun. And just thank you to whoever's bottle feeding right now. Is there someone here with bottle babies? I've heard squealing. It just goes to show that we literally are 24/7 advocates and caretakers. But we carry it with us all the time. It's a badge we defend ferociously and a burden sometimes. We've got spouses that are frustrated with the kitten smell in the house, or the late nights at the shelter, or you name it. There's some kind of applicable thing that we're willing to do because we know it's worth it. It doesn't even feel like a sacrifice to us in the moment, but our family members have to deal with it. So just hang in there, guys. I don't know. Thank you.
Well, thank you to our Native American over there, because I'm Native American. And the voice does speak within you, because I'm a retired nurse, retired social worker, and I live in the country south of Blanchard, and the dumping became unbearable. And one night I went to bed very, very distressed. And in the middle of the night, I heard my mother's voice say, "Stop asking God for help if you're not willing to move your own feet." And she said that all the time. So I jumped up the next morning and I thought, I can move my feet. And I decided to do it. And I had a big den in the back of my house and lots of all the wedge wood and the Lenox china and all that. And I decided I didn't need any of this stuff any longer. So I called a little church down the road from me and I said, do you have anybody in need? I need to get rid of some furniture today. And this man said yes. And I said, the only catch is you need to come today and get it. And I gave away the whole back end of my house. And I decided I was going to do an operating room, and I was going to start a no-cost, low-cost spay-neuter clinic, which is exactly what I did. And they came and hauled away my furniture, and I called in a builder, and he came out and built the walls where I needed, and I called my favorite vet, and I said, we're going to do this. And she helped me, and that was in the end of August, and by October the 4th, we were in operation. And on our first day of, without any advertising, we did 24 surgeries. And in 17 Sundays, which we decided to do on Sunday, all the surgeries, we had 2 vets come, and we, in 17 Sundays, have done 1,333 surgeries. So yes, my mother was number 40 on the Dawes roll in the state of Oklahoma, Chickasaw Indian. And I have been trying to get them to participate in what we're doing on a daily basis because they have the revenue and they could help a lot if they just would. And we've done enough art and enough beading and all this. We need to get into altruistic things that are real. And that's my opinion. And I know that this gentleman over here understands that completely because art is wonderful and we love it, but it does not have a heartbeat. And we all need to get into dealing with the heartbeats that are there begging for our help every day. And every time we help somebody with their animal, it's an opportunity to teach the Native American ways, which are to respect all living things. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark with VetPaw, Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife. Never heard of the Kirkpatrick Foundation till we were invited to come, Ryan and I, and we just wanted to say thank you so much for having us, the hospitality and the encouragement and everything people have been talking to us about and how they want to help us has just been a real boost to our effort. And I especially want to thank the pastor for that awareness and blessing. I took it to heart and I heard you and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Also wanted to, since I got this microphone, issue a challenge to all the good folks in the room who are Oklahomans. There's a circus called Carson and Barnes Circus that has a winter quarters in Hugo, Oklahoma. They breed Indian elephants there. They break them. They beat them. They electroshock them. They take them on the road up to the age of 50-year-old female elephants who've had babies taken from them. It's happening today, despite the fact that Feld Entertainment is gone. I used to conduct investigations into this circus, and I know for a fact, I've seen it firsthand, what the trainers do in order to get these animals to do what they need them to do. These are wild animals, they're not domestic animals. And I'd like to issue a challenge to the people of Oklahoma who are in this room that care about that subject matter, that perhaps in 3 years when we return, when VetPaw comes back, that all those elephants are in a sanctuary somewhere and that's not happening anymore in the state of Oklahoma. And I issue that from my heart. So thank you so much.
I'm so sorry, I'm not normally a public speaker. I'm an animal person. And both of my shoes match today, so that's a good sign. But I would like to say that I grew up here in Oklahoma, and these are my people. I was brought up as a Chickasaw with the Chickasaw ways to appreciate the earth and our role in the earth. And that, of course, included the animals. We were equals with the animals, and we got love and respect and kindness, and we learned so much from the animals growing up. I don't live in Oklahoma anymore. My mom does, and I come here every time I get the chance because I'm kitty nanny. That's my job. But I have seen Oklahoma change in the rural areas in a way that has disturbed me a great deal. It's solvable, and we can fix it. The people in this room can, but we can't fix it without the support of our local governments, people running for office, people that are making the laws or choosing not to enforce laws that are on the books. These are frustrations that we have in Oklahoma because we all care, and we all know dozens and dozens of others who care, but we can't move forward to the next step between now and the next conference to stop the cruelty, to stop the dumping, to stop the things that we've heard about in the last 2 days that are happening by our neighbors. In rural Oklahoma, a certain number of people have become cruel, violent, ridiculous, and lawless. And the animals are the first ones to suffer that, and that's what we see. Those aren't the people that I knew growing up, but those are the people I see today as an adult 60 years later. And that's what we're trying to fight against. I know you all want to also. But what goes on in this room needs to leave this room and go to our representatives and to our police departments and to our governor who wants to cut back on staffing for people that can address abuse cases, and so that you can call 911 when you see something wrong happening to an animal and hold someone accountable for it so that it's no longer socially acceptable for cruelty to happen to anyone, an animal, a child, an elderly person, anyone, because we're better than that. There are wonderful souls here that I keep coming back to refuel, and I see all of you, and I love all of this. But now when we leave here, we go back to south of Blanchard, where we deal with things that are unspeakable that I wouldn't share with you. And this young lady, who I don't know, but she spoke of it also, it's to the point where you do look to the heavens and say, what is the answer? What can I do? What can I do differently? Who can I talk to that can make a difference and help us take that next step? So we all need to do that. We need to hold people accountable who are writing the laws and choosing to address or not address animal cruelty across the world. I've been to Africa also, and I understand and appreciate what you all are doing. But that degree of cruelty is also happening in Blanchard, Oklahoma, in Dibble, Oklahoma, in places where people have forgotten what life is supposed to be and our role in it. So I'm hoping we can evolve and not go backwards into silly things that we saw in the 60s. I was there. And we can turn it around so that Oklahoma can be the wonderful, loving, and terrific place that I grew up in. So I thank you for everything. Thanks for listening to me. And let's go from here and hold people accountable that can help us take that next step. Thank you.
Molly, and then we may have room for one or two more. I was hoping to adjourn at 4:45, so I don't have a watch on me, but it's okay. Let's make it 4:48. We're going to adjourn at 4:48.
Okay, I'm Molly, and I'm a professional search and rescue volunteer. Some of you, or all of you, probably had some run-ins with my area lifeline search dog, Little Man. I just wanted to say primarily that it has been so much fun and very refreshing to be here the last 2 days because I've seen a lot of familiar faces. And I'm going to cry because, and here's another one, is because out of these relationships, and some of them were forged at the last conference, we've been able to do that proverbial, it takes a village to raise a child, and help a lot of animals because we've been able to network and develop positive relationships to benefit animals and in turn benefit ourselves. Little Man, who's been going around here, and we took his vest off today so he didn't think he was supposed to do a building search. He's actually a survivor of the Moore 2013 tornadoes, so we can always pay it forward, and I encourage all of us to do that. My biggest thing was 2 weeks ago, he got to work with 2 4-year-old twins, and we had the kids hide, but we also had them practice flanking, and the kids told their grandmother that they preferred to flank because they got to protect the dog and keep the dog safe, and they want to do it again because they want to help keep the dog safe, which if you don't know what a flanker does in search and rescue, they help keep the dog and the handler safe. So these kids, I think, are gonna, if we don't ever do anything ever again, those two little kids are gonna help keep dogs safe. How good is that? It doesn't get much better. So I'm done. Louisa?
Great, wonderful. We have 4 minutes. I'm going to let us go just a little bit long since we're once only every 3 years. 4 more minutes, so if you could keep it somewhat brief.
My name is Debbie Allen. I'm from Weatherford, Oklahoma, which is in western Oklahoma. Yesterday, I had somebody ask me, you know, well, what do you do for a living? And when I told them that I am an animal control officer and I run a municipal shelter, their response was one I hear all the time: oh, a kill shelter, you're a killer, you kill the dogs. And that was said to me here yesterday. I'm going to get a little emotional. Municipal shelters, we have a population of about 12,000 people. When I came on board 6.5 years ago from the city of San Antonio, where I was the field operations manager for their animal care services, Weatherford had a save rate of 47%. They hired a lot of college kids. They did catch and kill. It's taken me 6.5 years. Last year, we had a save rate of 92%. We're on track for 93% so far this year. I had 2 dogs leave today to go to Iowa, fetch Fido a flight. They've helped me out a lot. I've sent dogs to 25 states. But just because you're a municipal shelter doesn't mean that you catch and kill. It doesn't mean you don't care. A lot of us do care. I do not kill the dogs. I have a veterinarian that puts them to sleep. But I make the decision of God. I'm the one that decides who lives and who dies. We usually put them down on a Friday. A lot of times on Thursday night, I don't sleep. It just eats at me. But I haven't put down anything healthy and adoptable in 2.5 years.
Tell me your name again. Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen, thank you for being here today. And Kirk.
Debbie also told me how to pay me a cool trip, ACO trip, how to help
What time is it? Let's see. Do I have a time? 4:48. It's 4:48. So I'm going to briefly declare this meeting adjourned. Go forth and stay in touch. We will share the speakers lists and addresses and contact information for everyone who is here with you all. Give us a few weeks to recover and get those things to you. This meeting is adjourned.
you.